Hi, everybody, and welcome to Divine Thursday for June 11th, 2020. I'm your host, DM Gallibond. Hey, everybody. This week on Divine Thursday, we are going to be looking at a spell with a long history in D&D, Dispel Evil and Good. And it's one of those spells that has changed surprisingly little, even since the earliest days, the earliest editions of the game. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. We start, as we always do, with Dispel Evil and Good in the 5th edition. And we see that in this edition, it's a 5th level spell, lasts for a minute, one action casting time, just yourself is the only thing, and then there's also a touch component to it, but in the initial casting always only affects the caster, and it is available to only clerics and paladins. And in 5th edition, energy surrounds and protects the caster from fey, undead, and creatures originating from beyond the material plane. And for the duration, celestials, elementals, fey, fiends, and undead have disadvantage on attack rolls against you. So this edition, it encompasses all extraplanar creatures. So good or evil. So it will protect you from angels as well as protecting you from devils. And then the way you can end the spell early is to break an enchantment. So if there's somebody near you who is possessed, or that is charmed or frightened by one of these types of creatures, you touch that person and they are no longer charmed, frightened, or possessed. Or in a combat situation, once you cast the spell on yourself, you can try to do a touch attack against an extraplanar creature. And if you succeed, if you connect with that attack, then they have to make a charisma saving throw against your spell save DC. If they fail, boop, they are banished back to their home plane. So that will get rid of those creatures. And now, if the creature is already on the home plane, if the natural world is their home plane, then they would just be sent to a well, I guess actually they would not suffer any effect if they are already on their home plane. So if they aren't on their home plane, the undead are sent to the Shadowfell and Fey are sent to the Feywild. So that's kind of interesting that if you try to affect, let's say, a zombie or something, I mean, you don't want to waste a 5th level spell on a simple zombie, but a zombie that was raised by a necromancer in the natural world, well, they would still be on their home plane, so this wouldn't have any effect on them. But if it was an extraplanar, intelligent undead that was plane shifting or going somewhere that wasn't its native, then you could banish it back to its home plane. All right, so let's take a look back at earlier versions of this spell, and we will start by going all the way back to original D&D, the original rules, and we will see that even back in the original rules, it was a 5th level clerical spell. And Dispel Evil, now this had a range of 30 feet, and the duration was 10 minutes, or 1 turn. And it affects all undead and enchanted monsters within range, will destroy the monster unless each victim makes a saving throw versus spells. If cast at only one creature, it takes a -2 penalty on the saving throw. Any creature from another plane is banished, forced to return to its home plane if it fails a saving throw. Now, it goes on to say that even if victims successfully roll their saving throw, they must flee the area and will stay away as long as the caster concentrates. The caster cannot move while concentrating. So now that's a different thing. Back in the old days, if something said you concentrate, well, you just had to basically stand stock still. If you exert enough energy to move around, well, it is breaking your concentration on holding a spell, according to the old rules. And the spell will also remove the curse from any one cursed item, or may be used to remove the influence of any magical charm. Now you notice it was also Dispel Evil instead of Dispel Evil and Good. Um, Back in the original rules of the game, they really didn't have a concept that you would need a Dispel Good, because they thought naturally that anybody that was going to play D&D was going to want to be the hero, saving the towns from the monsters and fighting against the evil forces and all this kind of stuff and everything. And so they didn't even think about the concept of having a Dispel Good. That came as the game got more mature and thus became more cynical. Uh, as is the way of the world. As people get older, they tend to get more cynical. As games get older, rule systems tend to get more cynical. All right. So if we go to first edition or AD&D, we still see Dispel Evil, and now by this point it's become reversible. So you can cast it as a reversible spell. And it's still level 5, it's touch, it lasts 1 round per level of the caster. So now it has a little bit of a variable casting time. And you'll see some of the additions, they fell in love with this. 1 unit for every level of the caster, or 1 segment for every, whatever. And a creature touched, so it's back to 1 creature instead of all creatures in the range like the original edition. Verbal, somatic, and material components, and 8 segments, and that has to do with how long it takes to cast a spell, and a saving throw negate. So it causes all summoned creatures of an evil nature or monsters enchanted and caused to perform evil deeds to return to their own plane or place. So now that's interesting. So if it was a creature from the natural world, it would be sent away, like to its den or wherever it lives. Aerial servants, demons, devils, jinn, Ifrit, elementals, invisible stalkers, etc., etc. Spell lasts for 1 melee round for each level of the caster, and while the spell is in effect, all creatures which could be affected by it attack at a -7 penalty on their to hit dice when engaging the spellcaster. Reverse of the spell good, functions against summoned or enchanted creatures of good alignment or sent to aid the cause of good. And the material component of the spell are cleric's religious object and holy or unholy water. All right, and if we get into second edition, we're going to pretty much find that second edition here is almost identical word for word to the first edition. It's very rare in, if you've been following the segments week on, week on, week out, when you have spells that go all the way back, at least as far as first edition, it's very rare that you find much of any change at all between the way spells worked in first edition and second edition. Second edition basically just expanded the rules from first edition and added a little more flavor to it. It would sometimes add new elements to the game, but it didn't change a whole lot of the rules that were already in place, especially around spell casting. And then we get to third edition. And this is where Dispel Evil uh, is a spell on its own, and where you had a Dispel Good. That was a separate spell. So it was no longer a reversible spell, but there were two separate spells. And then this is where it started adding information, adding a little bit more granularity to it. So cleric and good aligned casters, level 5, and then paladins, level 4. So touch is the range. You and a touched evil creature of another plane, or you an enchanted or evil spell on a touched creature or object. 1 round per level, or until discharge, whichever comes first. So white holy energy surrounds you. It has 3 effects. Gain a +4 deflection bonus to AC against attacks by evil creatures. Okay, so that +4 and the -7 on attacks in the earlier versions, and the disadvantage in the 5th edition, those all represent the fact that it's giving you protection, a measure of protection against attacks. It's not making it impossible, but it's just making it harder for those creatures to hit you. So second, on making a successful melee touch attack against an evil creature, you choose to drive that creature back to its home plane. It can negate its effects with a successful will save, and spell resistance applies. In second and third edition, there were a lot of monsters that had just a plain percentage chance to resist any spells that targeted them. Third, with touch, you can automatically dispel any one enchantment spell cast by an evil creature or any one evil spell. So exception spells that can't be dispelled by Dispel Magic also can't be dispelled by Dispel Evil. So saving throws and spell resistance do not apply to this effect. And then you have Dispel Good, and it's basically, it operates just like Dispel Evil, except you're surrounded by a dark, wavering, unholy energy, and it affects good creatures and spells rather than evil ones. So, just simply a mirror of the other of the Dispel Evil spell. And then, of course, in 4th edition, the spell does not exist. All right, so that is going to do it for our discussion of Dispel Evil and Good. Be very interesting in the comments below if you've seen this used effectively in a game, or if you've used it really effectively in a game. Go ahead and put those down in the comments, or if you're as a DM, if you have either seen players use this, or if you have wound up using this against your players. It would be really interesting to see how that all played out, if you have any good stories from your table that you can tell. If you like everything that we're doing here on this channel, please go ahead and click the subscribe button down below. And then if you click the bell, then that will let you know every time that we post a new video to this channel. Also, in the description of this video, you'll find all the ways you can follow me on social media. You'll also find out about the other places that I post videos and do streaming, like my Twitch channel, and how you can follow me on all of those platforms. All right, I have been DM Gallibond. This has been Divine Thursday. Hopefully you will join us again tomorrow for Lore Friday, where we will continue our discussion about some of the adventures that come out of the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Peace out.